Hey,
Hey,
all right. I think we're good now.
okay.
Yeah, it sounds different too.
Oh, it sounds, yeah, much better.
Okay, so yeah, so you were talking about being from 60617 and the environment and the choices that we made and how our parents tried to instill in us better decisions to make based off of the problems that they went through growing
Right.
up. So how did you listen back then?
We all thought we knew everything.
Right. And that's what I would
Um,
say. Like even now, I was like, man, only if our kids would listen,
right,
you know.
right. One day you're gonna, understand what we meant. You're gonna be
Yeah, exactly.
think about what we said and all those things, and
Hmm.
that's exactly how it was, and that's how it is now with my kids. You hear yourself, you hear your parents, you hear all the advice and all the things that they would tell you. You tell your kids. That's exactly how it is. Um,
Right. Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, so I people would ask like, oh, if you could ever go back, to like grade school and things like that, would you? Um, and I always say no.
Mhm.
I look back and I'm like, you know what? It wasn't a good time for me. I mean, I've met a lot of people and I still have friends from elementary, a handful. Um,
Right.
but having to go through what I experienced at that age in school and things like that, no. And but I'm just thankful, and thank God that you know He watched over me, because and
Yeah.
guided me at the same time, because like I said, it goes left really quick. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the hardest thing, and you even see it now today with kids, is the bullying. And there's just too many options for a way out for them. And those are things that I didn't hear about then. I didn't know anybody that felt those things, where they didn't feel like they needed to live, or like that wasn't even, that stuff like that didn't even cross my mind. um
Right.
and so I can imagine what people, kids have to go through now. But yeah, it wasn't a fun time for me.
Yeah.
But
It's a whole
yeah,
different culture now. It's just
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, but honestly, I mean, that
Well,
tough love, it worked. It built grit. You know what I'm saying? It built my
yeah.
independence. When I got into high school, I was, my much thicker skin. I was more confident, and I think it was a lot to do with not staying in the environment I was in. I went somewhere
Mhm.
else. I didn't stay on the south side. I went to the east side, and met new
Yeah.
people, and it was a whole new experience, which was a great time for me. Um, but you fast forward to today, and everything I do, the way
Hmm.
I lead, it comes from that place. Um, uh, it feels like, I know what it feels like not to have an outlet, not to have a safe space, or to feel like that,
Right.
aside from being, home. you know,
Yeah. Exactly.
um,
Yeah. Hmm.
and a little hood, wisdom, a little heart, a lot of common sense. My mom would always
Right.
tell me, um, growing up, just doing, whatever we were doing, she would give an example, and she would say, common sense need. They call me Nini. That's my nickname, right? She would be like,
Right.
common sense need. And I would sit there like, common sense need. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Think about what you're doing. Think about it. Does that make sense
Yeah.
to
Think
you?
about yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Like
Like, don't be a fool. People, like, always watch what you're doing, who you're around, how you carry yourself. And, 'cause people are
yeah.
always watching. But just think about that. If it doesn't make sense, maybe it's not a good idea. She would tell me stuff like that.
Yeah. And
But
not to mention, you represent them when you're out there too.
yeah, there was a lot of that. Um, but growing up with all that, I think, at the early age, that kind of got me where I am, or how I move. So, even though I would
Right.
not want to go back to that time, I mean, it's what built me.
Yeah, it's what makes you who you are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's what builds character, the journey. You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
we can't look back at it, because we can't change nothing. All we can do is learn from it and
Right.
move forward, which is the only thing that we have control of is what happens next.
Yeah.
So welcome Lulu, welcome Cinco Network, and
We lost
once again, my
potato.
name is. And we lost our potato. Once again, it's a 120 Club live here on TikTok. I'm Mr. JMC along with my guest, NINI-B. And we're talking about Mind versus Emotions based on my book, Mind versus Emotions, Understanding Who's Really in Charge. And so, NINI, I have another question for you. So when like that, hang on. Sorry, like I said, I'm messed up here. Okay. Can you remember a time when emotions almost cost you everything that was important to you?
Um, well, there's, no big story where I lost it or snapped or went off on somebody or anything like that. But people's always had this perception of me, being very blunt, mean, intimidating. Um,
Well, you're telling the truth. That's
you know,
people hate truth, but they
yeah,
love comfort.
and I mean that was never my intent. I'm not
Yeah,
that's not who I want to be.
you're not
Um,
a yes friend.
yeah, I'm not a yes person, yeah. But I've always been pretty strong, handling my emotions. I'm not a reactor, right?
Right.
So,
Hmm.
because once you react, you can't take it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned early on that reacting usually costs you more than it helps you. Your peace, your reputation, your opportunities. Um, so for me, it's always been about rising above and then trusting me. That's and trust me. It's not easy to do. Believe I always say. I'm all bite my tongue so much for a lot of things, and it's just like because you want to be
Right.
the bigger person is just kind of like it's hard,
Yeah.
but sometimes people need to be put in their place, and there's a
Yeah.
time and place for it. There's a time and place for it, and
Right.
and I've been down that road, it's about walking away, and
Well,
when
ultimately, you're teaching people how to respect you.
yeah, because
So you have to draw that boundary.
yeah, you have to know your boundaries exactly. And then at the same time, it's hard because you're telling yourself like say something, like like
Yeah.
that moment of where you feel kind of weak because you should have said something. Why aren't you like saying
Yeah.
something, right? But at the same time, um, it's like protecting your peace. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you
Peace
know,
is worth fighting for.
right? So. Um, uh, because you don't want people thinking they got over on you, right? It's always that, and it's not about a pride or anything, but you know, um, you have to like my mom, think about what you do, right?
Well.
Like, but you have to, like you said, set boundaries and protect your space, and
Yeah.
let people know that it's not okay.
Yeah.
Not everything. Uh, uh, or everyone for that matter deserves a reaction too. The worst thing happens is
Exactly.
people judge you or distance themselves. Let them. If you haven't read,
Right.
if you haven't read that one, let them. A great book. But yeah, you can't control everything. You can't control everybody. Not everybody's gonna like
No.
you, and that's fine. Hey, not everybody's cup of tea. I know that.
Right.
But protecting my peace has always been more important than winning an argument or winning, trying to prove a point. Um,
Right. Hmm.
so learning not to let them run me is exactly why I'm still where I'm at. And I
Yeah.
guess probably why a lot of people still um, maybe don't care for me. I don't know. I don't know. It's been,
Well.
but,
And
what are you
yeah.
gonna do?
Al Potato, can you hear us now?
He's back now. He can hear us.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Uh, well, yeah, but I mean, the ultimate thing is, you can't, you can only control what you can control. You can only control what's in front of you.
Right.
You can't control how people approach you. You can't control what people think or say about you. But
Right.
what do you say about you? What do you think about you?
Right.
And that's the ultimate boundary right there. You know,
Yeah.
so um, cause what did you learn from that about control? What did you learn from that?
Well, okay. So there's a pivotal moment. There's one time where I did snap. Um,
Hmm.
and I was in this one relationship where you're pouring your love and support into somebody and
Yeah,
slowly realizing, wait up, why am I the only one shrinking? Right?
yeah, I know.
Why am I
And and
always,
and
yeah,
men go through that too. Men go through
yeah,
that too.
absolutely. Why am I stressed? Why am I unhappy? Why does this feel heavy,
Yeah,
on me? And I had this moment like, hold up, am I really letting someone else control my happiness? You
at
know?
that point, yes, you are. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I had to say, nope, absolutely not. I just can't do this. That's not me. You ask anybody who knows me, and they will say, nope, she was not the Nicole we know,
yeah,
right? But you know, and there's deep down inside, I knew this wasn't where I wanted to be,
hmm,
and so yeah, but because sometimes I call it the clarity snap, we'll call it clarity snap, right?
yeah.
Like I said, it was a pivot moment. It was that moment where it just
The
hit me.
da moment.
Yeah, 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 like
Yeah,
that pivot, but like, yeah, it was, I had to do something. I had to, put me first. Because sometimes it's not
hmm,
anger, it's your spirit saying, I had enough already.
yeah. It's your discernment, and and that's why I put this together. Because it's a path of choice and change.
Yeah,
There's no change without choice.
right.
You know what I'm saying? There's no choice without change. So that's why the the subject of the whole title of this live is um, the power of choice,
Yeah.
because choice is everything. And just real quick, I got somebody shared a story with me. There was a man that passed away. He had cancer. He
Uh-huh.
had a choice to. He had a choice now. He had a choice
Yeah.
to either get treatment and go through all that, or
Mm-hmm.
just let it go and die. And he chose to let it go and die. That's how that's how strong a choice is. It's a matter of life or death.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I want and me just I'm not perfect. I'm not who I want to be, but I'm not who I used to be. But that's a choice.
Yeah.
And like what you were saying before is like you got to make a choice, either more of the same or enough's enough. Like either I'm going to continue to live like this, or I'm going to make a choice for change.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So what does strength look like for women today?
For women. Well,
I can't answer that.
you ain't the woman.
That's what I'm saying. I can't
Yeah.
answer that.
Well, strength today, I hope it looks softer but stronger at the same time. Um, that it looks
Hmm.
like boundaries. We have to set boundaries. That it
Yeah.
looks like saying no without explaining yourself. It looks like asking for help and not feeling guilty about it. Um, we have to put ourselves first. You know, we need to take care of our mental, our physical, everything, therapy, healing, not shrinking, not pretending, not carrying the world alone, just standing in who you are, flaws, lessons,
Hmm.
growth. Um,
And just because
Because
you go for therapy too, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you're
no, I
strong,
mean,
actually.
right. These are the things that, uh, these are things that strengthen us. Um, and because the strongest women I know, they're not the loudest. They're the ones who keep showing up, keep loving, keep building, keep growing. That's
So I
strength.
say confidence is silent,
Yeah.
insecurities are loud.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I
Yeah.
hope that women today are looking at themselves and to be stronger, they're taking care of themselves. Um,
Yeah, and that they belong. Like there's
yeah.
somebody. Like they matter.
Yeah.
Like women give life. I think Mother's Day should be every day.
Hmm.
Because I lost mine in 2008, and I know you lost our cousin. May the cousins rest in peace.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every day since then, I wish I had my mother.
Oh yeah.
Every day since then. So that's why I respect women so much. And not only do I have you, but I have my daughter, I have my granddaughter. So I believe in that Adam and Eve were created together, but Eve came from the side of Adam, not to walk above him or below him, but equal.
Right.
So with that, men have to give her like women crave love, men can crave respect. It's the same thing, you know. Door do. Welcome, Terry. Okay, so cuz,
Yeah.
so how do you separate emotions from your decision making these days? Since you've been there, done that, walked through it, how
Yeah.
does does you let your emotions control you, or like you said, do you stop and think?
Um, yeah, you have to stop and think. Maybe even sleep on it. Take a walk. Think about it.
I did take plenty of walks today. You already
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I mind my business for a minute, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But and nine times out of ten, the next day, if it's the next day or later that day or after I've pondered on it, yeah, that wasn't even worth my time, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wouldn't, it's not worth the energy. Um, but now it's really about peace. That's the priority, is
Yeah.
peace. Because every decision doesn't deserve your energy, right? So less
No.
feelings, more facts, less reacting, more responding. you
And I
know
always say, I would say, like, and a pastor told me this before. He's like, if you have to make a decision, and if you don't have peace with that decision,
Mhm.
it's going to be the wrong decision.
Yeah.
So you have to have peace, especially when you know the outcome.
Right.
You know, so if you don't have peace with that decision, it's the wrong decision,
Mhm.
and a lot of times it's hard for us to accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But once again, welcome everybody that's joining us. We're talking
hey, hey.
about my book, Mind versus Emotions. Understand who's really in charge or in control. It's the Path of Choice and Change, part of my 24-hour pep talk series, and I'm here with my guest, NINI-B, in the place to
There you
be. So, so,
go.
cuz, when did when did self accountability change your mindset?
um
Like once you stop blaming,
yeah.
well, not that you ever blamed anybody,
Right.
but people need to know that blame gets you nowhere.
Right. Well, accountability isn't about taking blame for everything. It's about ownership. So, and that's the hardest thing I think it is for everybody, is taking the accountability, because of course it's easy to blame somebody else. Um,
Hmm.
and when you're not looking inward and looking at, all everything that you may be doing wrong in a situation, or things that you may need to change, yeah, you're not going to take that accountability. But you know, uh, it's all about ownership. Like the situation I was just talking, like, did I ignore the red flags? Did I stay too long? Okay. Did I
Hmm.
not speak up? Did I choose comfort over growth? Yeah. I mean, because I think in that situation, no, I didn't blame somebody. 100%. It took a long time for me to have peace with myself, and and instead of thinking, oh, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, I would have probably
Mm.
been did this, or if somebody didn't hold me back or this didn't happen, then I would have done this.
Right.
um,
Hmm.
and so being accountable was like, no, those were my decisions, right? Those are things that
Yeah.
I did, and I had to make those decisions to move. Just like, when people are going through stuff, you could tell people over and over and over again, they ask for the advice and you give it to them, or you're there for an ear and all that, but they're not going to make the move until they're ready, right? Until
Yeah.
they're fed up,
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
they're tired, you know,
Hey, you can't make people change that don't want to change.
right? So it's kind of like, how, mama be like, well, then you learn the hard way, all right? Or you'll learn, you'll figure it out when you learn. I mean, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but when you have accountability, it's like, you have your power back, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know,
And you have the right to forgive yourself
yeah,
or not.
it's
But
okay, lesson
yeah,
learned,
let's move on.
let's move, like, so, it's just growth. And so, for me, I think that, that's what, I was finally at a place to do, and understanding that, um, so, there's a lot that goes on when you're in these situations, and, your mind shifts and things change. And, so it's like a reset to get back to who you are,
Right.
and to understand that, this these, changing, you can't just walk away and things change. It's kind of, you bring this kind of baggage in your, with you. And now, like I said,
Hmm.
that whole, like, adjusting and moving and making the change, um, is something that needs to be done. And it's hard. It's hard to do that. It is hard to do that.
Right. Yeah. It
You
really
need to
is.
do it, but it's hard to do it. But that's where growth happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
choose
Exactly.
better, to move smarter, you know. Um,
Be better than you were today.
yeah, exactly.
You
Exactly.
know. Um. Be better. Be better tomorrow than you were today. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big shout out to DJ Kiko in the house.
Hey, hey.
A good friend. Had a lot of good times. Had a good time back when I was young. uh. So, cuz what happens when women stop blaming circumstances and start choosing differently now? And what's the outcome
Yeah.
when you stop thinking negative and start thinking positive?
Um, that could be either for a man or for a woman.
Yeah,
People in
absolutely, yes.
general. But in general, because blaming, that's human, and honesty. Honestly, I think blaming usually comes from fear, because we're blaming something outside of us. We don't have to look, uh, you know, in the mirror. That's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
To tie yourself,
Yeah, like what do you when you look at what do you see when you look in the mirror?
yeah, you know,
You know, and that
yeah,
plays a lot to your self esteem.
yeah,
Your self love, your self
yeah.
respect. Because if you're not living for yourself, who are you living for?
Right.
Right?
So once you stop blaming and start choosing differently, that's when life actually changes. Accountability opens the door to new beginnings. It's not, about, beating yourself up all the time. It's about saying, I can
Right.
do better next time. And
Yeah.
it's
It's
okay
about
to,
learning. Yeah.
it's about, and it's okay to do that. That's, it'll set you free. That's the freedom of it, right?
That's why they say down 9 times, get up 10.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
you got to keep getting up. You got to, I don't know how many times I myself have been knocked to my knees as a man, as a father,
Hmm.
and all I could do is stand back up. You know,
Yeah.
uh, welcome, Mr. DJ Boogeyman.
Oh boy.
Uh, oh boy,
Oh boy.
um, oh boy.
Oh boy.
No, but that actually goes back to by law. No,
Mm-hmm.
that actually goes back to actually the first book in my series, 24-Hour Pep Talk. I am responsible, the game of blame. Because people play that game, they play that game of blame, and it's like it's a never-ending circle because it's all a lie. And that's why I said people that hate truth are people that are living a lie. You know,
Right.
so because what kind of role model do you aim to be, especially like for your daughter or your or the women that are joining us tonight?
I again, I wouldn't say like role model. I mean, that's never like, I don't know. I've never looked at it that way. Like, am I being a role model for somebody? I mean, now my daughter, of course.
Well, a lot of
But
times we don't call ourselves to be role models, but the way we carry ourselves.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I've
Yeah,
never really thought about that. I mean, I guess you inspire others, you know. Um, yeah, I'm just out here living, doing my thing, trying to figure it out every day,
yeah,
just like everybody else.
right,
I have 13-year-old twins, and so it's a lot of how I show up for my children, you know. Um, but if anything, I hope women see me and feel like they have permission to be themselves, to make their own mark, not to shrink,
right,
um, not to wait for perfect timing, just to start, and not
yeah,
look. And if anybody had that perception of me, of, you know, um, being intimidated or feeling like, I'm mean or things like that,
or
not
hating.
to feel that way. Um,
No, no, I mean because a lot of times they hate what's in you that's not in them.
yeah. And I
They're
don't want
like
anybody
they'll
to
tell
feel
you
like that either. I
right.
don't want
Well,
anybody to feel that
we
way.
don't, but they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of their insecurities,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And as
Um,
soon as you start standing up for yourself, exactly what you said, you get ridiculed.
right.
You get screwed, blued, and tattooed.
Right.
You know, you're the bad person because you tell the truth.
Right. Right.
And I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but I don't want no yes friends.
Right.
I
No,
want
I
you to
don't want
tell
no
me
yes friend. And
when
I'm
I'm not
definitely not a
awesome,
yes friend.
because I'm
Um,
not awesome all the time. So don't tell me I'm awesome all the time.
yeah.
you know,
Well, no. But yeah, no, no, totally. But I mean, that's why I've always, you know, that with anybody, loyalty
right,
and keeping it real and, always, I might, doors always open for people in my life. And, um, I'm just not what a lot of people, who I think I am. But, like I said, can't please everybody and I'm not trying to.
no,
Um,
yeah,
but, you know, I never want to be the perfect example. I just want to be a real example, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that's it. I mean, just real.
And I
Um,
mean, the only thing that really matters, as far as your legacy and what you leave behind is how your daughter comes from it.
yeah,
Because overall, you are her, her greatest hero right now.
yeah.
Her mom is her everything. So she's gonna follow you. And kids are sponges.
Oh yeah,
Kids are
and
sponges. They suck up everything.
yeah, and being very aware, like, I was blessed really to have a great parents and upbringing, not trauma, drama, or any of that stuff. Um,
Right,
I mean, and that doesn't go for everybody. But, even though, I had good parents and, I'm grateful of the structure they gave me and all the great advice and how
uh,
they raised me and things like that, the strong, independent, female. And I want my daughter to have that too. I want my son to be strong as well. But, there are things that, I decided that how I wasn't going to raise them or do the same things,
right,
right? I was going to raise them in certain circumstances differently than how my parents did it or how my mom did it.
right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. And Even though I know, I mean, who always goes to their parents to talk? I mean, who does that? But I mean, I
Right.
had parents that I knew I could confide in and, count on and things like that. But I really do want them to know that I'm here and they could come talk to me. I'm your mom. No, I'm not your friend, but I'm here
Yeah.
for you
And
and
right.
instill those things in them, and her especially.
And it's very important. It's very important that they understand that,
Yeah,
that, okay, I'm not your friend,
yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So, you can talk to me, but remember, like, I'm not your friend, like, um, the way you answer me, the way um, come at me, you better come at me respectfully, and
Yeah,
that is how our parents were.
yeah.
Welcome aboard,
Hey,
cousin
hey,
Martin
hey.
Boogeyman Luna.
I look good in that photo, don't I?
Yeah, that was like 20 years ago.
Okay, okay, Marty, we're still talking, so let's mute you really quick. Thank
Go
you.
ahead and talk. No, you know what I do?
Let's mute him,
No,
like real quick.
Joe invited me, but I'm walking my mom's doggy, Rocky. Rocky's walking over here by my house, so I'm like listening until I get back in the house.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so what advice would you give anybody tuning in right now? What advice would you give them that if they feel emotionally stuck?
Which
Hmm.
cousin are you talking to?
Not you.
Nini,
Mute him, please.
I did.
Thank you. That's my
Okay,
other
go
cousin, everybody. So, time to go.
ahead.
Um,
he's a he's
yeah.
a
How
he's a
lucky am
black
I to have both of
black.
you as my cousins? Like, oh God,
He's the
yeah.
black sheep. He's the black sheep.
Jeez. I would say breathe, because when you're stuck, everything feels urgent and heavy and permanent, and it's not.
Right.
Um, it just feels that way in the moment. I'd probably, for somebody, like, ask somebody, or someone ask me, like, what's really going on, not the, highlight real answer, the real one, because sometimes we're not stuck, we're just tired or hurt or carrying too much
Yeah.
by ourselves, right? And nobody taught us it's okay maybe to put something down. I've learned that feeling stuck usually means something in your life doesn't fit it more, sometimes.
Yeah.
So it can be an array of things. And
And comfort
it's
is the
always
big
it's
stuck.
always great to be able to have somebody to talk to, Um,
Yeah, it
but
is. It is. But it's like it's hard to find that person
yeah, it is.
because everybody wants to be a busybody on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loyalty is very, very,
Yeah.
uncommon these days.
Right. I know.
Um,
Straight up. And
yeah.
and and I think too, having oh shoot. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think, that's really what I would say, just
Yeah.
breathe and kind of think about it.
Yeah. And,
Um,
and think about what your
yeah,
next move is, because that's the only thing
right.
that you have control of.
Right.
You know,
That's
because
all,
life is not.
you can't control anything else. And I think that is sometimes, like, people want to control everything and you just can't
Yeah,
control
you
it, you
can't.
know?
You can't
Yeah.
control everything, and you can't change everything.
No, and you can't please everybody.
No, but all you can do is
And
have control over
you
what
shouldn't have to
happens
do that.
next.
Yeah.
What happens next. What happens next. That's on you.
Yeah. What about me? What
Only you can
about
determine that.
my peace, my happiness? Like,
Yeah. Because when people want you to start being like them, I'm sorry, I'm not you. I wasn't born like you. I have a different fingerprint.
yeah,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So
Yeah.
so don't I don't have to think like you. I don't
Yeah.
have to live like you. I don't have to walk like you. And if you can accept that and have that same respect for me, then
Yeah.
I don't need you in my life. And then
Right.
that's where that boundary that we were talking about earlier, that's where that boundary comes in. You
Exactly.
know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Give
so
yourself
what is one
grace,
thing?
right? Give yourself grace, people.
Yeah. Give yourself time, man. Like think about it. And how they say
Yeah.
you got to pick and choose your battles.
Right.
Like really pick and choose them, man. Because
Yeah.
if
It'll
you go, me being a veteran, if you charge into enemy territory without having a strategy or a plan, you're gonna get demolished.
Yeah.
So you have to everything in life as a plan. People don't fail to plan; they just. I'm sorry. People don't plan to fail; they just fail to plan.
Hmm.
Everything in life has that. It needs. You need a plan. You need
Yeah.
to think about what you're going to do before you do it.
Yeah. Especially
And
for
I've
women,
had,
they're, trying to be superwoman for everybody else. You don't have to have it all together.
no. You need to be
You're
superwoman for
allowed to
yourself.
be soft. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to put yourself first. And honestly, you're stronger than, we're stronger than we think most of the time.
Yeah. Well, that even the Bible says your strength is in your weakness.
Yeah.
Because that's where we find our strength. And,
Right.
that's how we're. And if you're not learning from it, it just goes down to the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Doing things over and over again, expecting a different result. And it's not going to happen.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So
And transition,
mhm. So one thing that you had to learn and break while in chaos in order to grow. Because I always say, you know, um, truth comes from chaos, right?
Mhm.
We don't understand truth until we go through it. Like, say, for instance, if like people that you said did you wrong or whatever, and the people did me wrong, whatever,
Mhm.
I forgive all of them, But if we would have known that from the jump, we would have never been through that in order for us to grow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, a lot of times that's why I say nothing just happens. Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And that's my spiritual intuition. So if we didn't go through that, if you didn't go through all that you went through growing up, like you said, that's what made you,
Yeah.
right? If you didn't have all that, you wouldn't be who you are today.
Yeah.
So what breaking off of that, like I said, while in chaos, what do you feel that you had to unlearn to break in order to grow?
For the longest time, leaning on someone felt like weakness to me
Yeah.
because, growing up, being independent, survival, the only child, figuring it out, handling my business, not depending on anybody. Um, uh, and again, I have my parents, but this is us growing up. This is us finding ourselves, right? It's
Yeah.
like we're in
Yeah.
battle, needing to figure it all out. So I got really good at not like needing people, but there's the thing, not needing people and not allowing people to love you properly. They're two different things, right? So I had to
Right.
learn that the hard way, especially in a partnership, right? Um, uh, it's like it's okay to lean on your partner now being married, right? And
Yeah.
being so independent, it's hard to do that. It's mine. I
Yeah.
do it. It's my thing. This is what I do. I got it. All that. It's okay to say, "Hey, I'm tired." It's okay to let somebody, show up for you. Um,
Right.
you're not losing strength. You're building a team.
Yeah, because it's not about you. It's not about him. It's
Yeah.
about what's good for us.
Right. So,
Because
and
yeah.
that's big for me. And like, no, we're not perfect. And, I still have, I mean, we've been, um, married, 13 years now. And it's like, it,
Congratulations.
thank you. And it's still,
Meow.
there's still times where, he has to remind me like, hey, we're doing this together. You're not,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, and that's where our balance is, and that's what he brings me, and it's like, and he's also
Well, it's
someone
good. Yeah.
that's not, afraid to put me in my place, which I think is what I really needed, right? And,
Well,
but,
well,
yeah,
but while you listen is because you respect them.
exactly. So sometimes saying, hey, I need your help. And,
Because you know he loves you,
right.
and
And
you
so
respect
can
and you
you,
respect him. Seeing that's
and
how that goes.
yeah, it's like you say, it's being a team and
Yeah, you
you
have to.
rely on each other and your support system and all that's true, you know, if you find if you find that person for you, you know, um, so then there'll be times where I'm like, no, I got this, and I'm like telling myself, like, girl, like why aren't you asking for help, like just ask, you know
Right.
and that's we got to stand back and be like, okay, like I could ask for help, it's okay, you know you know it's okay to do that, so but that's growth, we grow together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're still growing, and
Yeah,
you as a married couple, you guys grow together or you grow apart.
right.
There
Which
is
one gonna
no
be? Hmm.
yeah,
You're
there is
married?
no if.
You're married, Nini? Damn.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
He hacked my
Hi,
he hacked my
Marty.
TikTok. He hacked my TikTok and unmuted himself.
Yeah. Can you mute him, please? This isn't your
Leave
show, Marty.
that
Bye.
leave that to
By law.
Bye.
leave that to the boy. That's why they call him the boogeyman.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, cause like I said, at the beginning, I apologize for my confusion and everything. Personal things that are happening in my life right now. But man, it's so great to have you on here and just to engage and just talk about life because ready or not, here it comes, right?
Yeah.
And it's how you prepare for how you prepare how you go through this storm. It's how you prepare for the next one because it's gonna come, you know.
Yeah.
And then once again, we were talking about my series, of 24-hour pep talk. The second book, Mind versus Emotions: Understanding Who's Really in Control. A choice of past, a path of choice and change. And you can find all of my books on Amazon. Like I touched on a lot of stuff here today that I do have books on. And people, ask what I recommend, and I just tell them, well, just go through my website and whatever grabs you.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about, grammar school. I wrote a book for 7th and 8th graders going into high school.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing them for that. And juniors and seniors for what's next coming in life. And a book for women called "Be You." I tell you what he's thinking. Father, not baby daddy. So there's a lot of things that I see out there that I see that's a problem that I just want to address. Like I'm not saying that mine is a be all end all solution,
Right.
but from my perspective, I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but I made enough good ones to still be here.
Right.
And then from this point, I want to help as many people as I can, which is why I appreciate the collaboration with you and DJ Boogeyman.
Proud of you, cuz.
Big family. I appreciate the family support and everything. And I have some other stuff coming in that Nicole knows about, gearing towards veteran help with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be coming out with that soon. It's a Funky Fresh Start. So not only do we have going to have the veterans benefits advisors, we're also going to have my books and motivational speaking, as well as life coaching and inspirational podcasts like this. Welcome, Boogie. How you doing?
I didn't know you were going to
Okay.
let me talk
Well,
again. I just had a cookie.
all right. Well, thank you, cuz, for coming on. Thank you, cuz Nini.
Yeah, I'm sorry I caught you a little late. I was live on the Tiki-Talkie. I didn't know you guys were coming on. I missed that. I remember seeing something about it, but
It was
other
it
than
was
that,
it was for me and Joe to have a discussion. So
okay.
that's
Well,
why
He was
that's
probably
why we didn't inform you.
well, they did grow up together. You two grew up together more with each other than I did with you because of age
Yeah.
gap. because
Right. Very true.
Yeah.
I'm a lot younger than you guys.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cornball. He's the
but
original cornball.
but yeah, but
Yeah.
there is a real connection there. This is not scripted. If I could tell everybody and anybody, it's not scripted. These two got real history. So if anybody's going to
Thank you,
bounce off
guys.
anybody, good or bad, right or wrong, without any attitude, that's it right here. This is a real deal. It's by law, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate that,
So,
cuz. Thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you, children.
So yeah.
Love you guys.
So
Love you guys. Love you. Love you. Love you.
all right, brother. Okay, cuz so you know, we just want to let people know that you're not crazy, you're not broken, you
Yeah.
just need a little bit of discipline in your life. And we all have discipline. We all need discipline in our lives, like
Yeah.
nobody's got it all together, but like I said earlier, all we could do is be better tomorrow than we were today. Recognize that we need growth.
Right.
Recognize that we need we need to make better personal decisions based off of like I said, if you have peace with that decision.
Yeah.
Because if you already know you walking into a campfire, you're going to burn yourself, and you do it anyways, you kind of have some problems,
Yeah.
and sometimes, we need to make that choice. More of the same or enough's enough. How many times do we want to keep going through this and coming up empty?
Right.
So, cuz, you have anything in closing to tell people? We had a couple people just join us. If anybody wants to engage before we end the live, I know my cousin, she has things she has to do, and I appreciate every second and every minute that she gave to us. So, cuz, you have anything in closing that you would want to tell anybody that's tuning in?
Just it's gonna be okay. I know one thing that I think about a lot is about how are things going to be as I'm getting older, right?
Yeah.
And I have my kids and things, and I think feeling the pressure is probably something that I need to stop letting control me, is
Yeah.
feeling pressured,
Right.
to do it all, to show up perfectly, to never miss a moment. Because at the end of the day, all I really want is for my kids to say, "Hey, mom gave it her all,"
Yeah, and you know what? And that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully, I've had those words come out of my kids' mouths, or not only come out of their mouth, but in their actions.
Yeah.
Actions of respect, and stuff and things like that. So it's really rewarding,
Yeah.
because we don't do it for that.
Right.
We do it because it was done for us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we know.
Yeah.
But like I said, yeah, I can totally agree and like vouch for that feeling.
Yeah.
What it just out of the blue, it's going to hit you, and one of them is going to say something, and you're going to be like, "Man, who raised you?"
Well, they're their own person.
Yeah.
I want them to be their own person.
Well, they have to be. And they have to fail.
Yeah.
They have to fail in order to, in order to, where, 'cause I would say, like, you can never know the full taste of winning if you've never lost.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then there's no losing in anything. You grow, you learn.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's all.
No,
that's what it's all about. Hopefully that's
right.
What someone can take from it is grow. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, as you get, like I said, as you're getting older, it's harder, because it's not just, and this is where we're talking about, your mental and, what you're feeling and everything, is because, we are getting older. And those are the times where, I sit back and it's just like, what am I doing enough? Like, what can I do?
Right.
Yeah. Maybe I'll
And this,
work,
and, this,
another 20 or 25 years left. Like, you know what I mean? Like all these things, so you get, I get in these spaces where, I don't want to bring myself down, but I'm like, okay, to turn that to say, well, I'm feeling these things, so what does that look?
right.
What can I do, to make sure that, everybody's going to be okay? Because once we're gone, we're gone, and we never know when that's going to be.
Yeah.
But it's
And
pressure.
and
It's the
that's, yeah,
pressures of that, and so I think
it
I need
is.
to I need that to stop controlling me at times,
Yeah.
but I know at the same time, I take a deep breath, like I said, and it's going to be okay, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think so.
everything will be okay.
Yeah.
It's only, but it's only if we want it to be okay.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
You have to be
um,
proactive in that. Yeah.
yeah, you have to take the ups and the downs and the goods and the bads. Um,
Yeah.
but, uh, but yeah, so, guys, we're going to end this with a little closing prayer.
Okay.
Um, okay. Father God, thank you for this conversation. Help us pause before reacting. Help us think before speaking. Help us choose growth over impulse. For anyone who feels stuck, give them the clarity and strength and teach us self-control and accountability. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, cuz.
So this is the 120% club. We don't blame, we grow, we take ownership. I'm Joe JMC and my illustrious, beautiful cousin NINI-B in the building talking about my book. My emergency emotion understanding is really in control. Um, Pat, I can't remember. I bit it, but that's all, folks. A
Yes.
path of choice and change. So everything's available on Amazon. You could just look up my name, Jose Cisneros, and you'll see one of my titles. So yeah. So remember, you are not your emotions. You are in control.
Yep.
Okay. Um, so with that, I want everybody to know that you have control over what happens next. And you cannot change what has happened. All you could do is change, like I said, what happens next. So let's not focus on behind, because whatever is behind you will never be in front of you. Okay? And let's focus on moving forward. So thank you again, Cuz. And thank you
Welcome.
again,
Thank you for
Cuz
having me,
Cuz
cousin.
Boogeyman, and everybody that came through to visit us. We appreciate everybody. This is JMC,
NINI-B.
NINI-B in the building. Out.